Bit of work to the 65 while I'm in between things here because I wanted to get a video out on this stripping. I know some of you guys are in this part of the project right now. So just so you know, I put some paint stripper on this yesterday. It was too cold, it was like below 50 or around 50 degrees, and today the sun's out a little bit, so it would be a lot faster today. And I kind of forgot about it, and maybe you've done this before, and so you kind of go, oh man, now I'm gonna have to try and strip over this and just try and scrape this off. It's a real pain in the ear. I'm gonna show you how I normally do it, but I wanted to tell you first of all, I always recommend using eye protection. Make sure there is no other debris, cars, anything around that could get damaged when you're doing this, because wherever this paint stripper gets, that paint is coming off. So this is dry, and after I hosed it last night, hold on a second. My dog always thinks he's gonna get a rabbit, so he just drives me nuts, standing there barking, waiting for me to open the shed doors and look around. So anyway, he's just barking, driving me crazy. So I had to give him a little stopping, let him get in the house. Anyway, so what you do is always, after you put the stripper on, always take water and hose it down, and that will neutralize the stripper, especially if you're using the cheap stuff. If you're using this stuff here, which is what I usually use, because why? When you get this stuff on your hands, it gives you a few minutes to get it off. You put Jasco or aircraft stripper, you get this stuff on your hand just a little tiny bit, or on your body somewhere, oh my god, it will burn the hell out of you. I mean, this stuff comes on a little slower. It gives you a minute to kind of get the stuff off. So that's normally, I use the cheaper ones. I've used the other ones. Sometimes I have to use them. I try and use this one first to make sure it does the job. So anyway, after you got everything covered up, eye protection on, make sure you don't have anything that's going to get ruined, because even though this is dry, there might be some wet spots underneath where the water didn't get to it and cure it. And just to be safe, I would always make sure you have everything done like that. So the tool to use after you've done that and everything's covered up is, I usually use a polisher for this, but I just happen to have this usually set up in my truck for removing silicone. So is these Harbor Freight tools wire brush set. They have a set for like $6.99 or something like that. You can go to Home Depot and you'll spend $15 on just that one wheel. It has all these kind of ones. It has one like this that's woven. It has all these things in it. And right now I'm going to use one of these Drillmaster grinders. It is kind of fast. It is kind of out of control. So it's going to be a little bit hard for me to do. I'm going to try to do this one-handed. I don't feel like getting out my clamp and doing the video right now, but I wanted to get this out there real quick. Let me set this up. All you do is take this. Look at that. It just comes right off. You just take all the chip paint off that you can get off. The great thing about this is if you hit the metal, it doesn't damage the metal. It polishes the metal a little bit. So it's not going to scratch your metal. You can have a nice clean surface and you can put your primer on. So generally, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One of the ways you can do it is while the stripper's still wet, you can start put more coats on, pour more coats on. Then usually what I try and do before it gets hard like this, I'll hit it with the hose and I'll knock off everything I can. Yeah, you'll have some open metal there. You get some water on that open metal. There's really no way around it. The stripper itself has water in it, so it will rust the metal. So you will start the rusting process, and I believe this is better than using still better than using, because I like, if it has original paint, I'm not going to sand all that completely off. I'm going to feather that all out. Okay, and then I'll use polyester primer over all this stuff. Actually, I'm going to use epoxy on here because it's going to sit outside. But that's the way you strip very quickly. It took me a lot of years to learn this stuff, so I'm trying to teach you guys the shortcuts now, because you know, I used to, and to put on your stripper, get one of these little buckets like this and a chip brush, fill up the bucket, and just tip it a little bit and just fling it on. Tip the bucket and fling it on. Okay, like I said, make sure everything's covered up. You got anything that's going to get those paint chips on it. Right now the bug's in the garage, so it's not going to, I know this is pretty dry, so I'm not really worried about it getting on there. But if it was potentially wet at all underneath there, I would make sure that it's really, really, really well protected, and everything's covered up. You know, have it out maybe in your driveway where there's no cars around for 20 feet or more in each direction, and you know, because it's going to fling quite a ways when you do that. But it sure saves you a ton of time where you're trying to scrape. I've seen guys put it on, they use a razor blade and scrape it off. Man, you'll be stripping that car for weeks. You know, when this, literally, I can do a whole car in like 4 hours with this system. Generally, I'll go back up again. I'll tell you how I normally do it. This was kind of odd that it let it set overnight. You could do it this way. But normally what I do is I put the stripper on with that bucket. Then what I'll do is, after I put maybe sometimes 2 or 3 coats of the stripper on, put it on real heavy, okay, have it running down, okay, and then while it's still wrinkling, when it looks like this but it's still wet, then I'll take the hose and I'll hose it off, and generally that will take it off, and it will also neutralize it. And then what I'll do is after that, let that set for a little while and maybe dry it off. Sometimes I'll just let it air dry. Then I'll come back with my machine with the bottle brush on it. I either use this one or I'll use the one that's woven. That's more woven. It looks like this, but it's a bottle brush. And then I'll go over the surface. I'll try it with the softer bristle first. Then I'll go over it with that. If it doesn't come off very easily, then I'll switch over to this guy. And you might have to do it twice. It depends on how much paint you got on your car. This one has quite a bit of paint on here. They put on really thick coats, so it might take 2 or 3 times to get it all off. And then I'll just go ahead and do that after it's neutralized with water. Then I'll do it. But then again, I just want you to know, even if it's neutralized with water, sometimes it still has stripping ability, so do not let it get on anything. Then I'll go over it with that until it's like this, okay? If it's the original paint, I'm okay. Then I'll go through and sand it with a DA, and if you don't have a DA, again, you can substitute that with an electric sander, and then sand the whole thing down, feather it down to where you can't feel any edge, so it has to be really, really feathered down, really good. With I use 150 or 120 grit, or sometimes I even use 80 to feather it down. And because every time you hit that bare metal, it just dulls your paper. So feather it all down real quick, and then prime it real heavy. So then that'll be a nice surface for you to start doing your body work on. So if you have these check problem with your paint where it's all checked and you got to take it all off, that's the way to do it. Okay, a little short kit for you, and another Harbor Freight Tools must have if you're doing paint stripping.